I had a friend who was a carpenter, you know, and you try to say that it's an art, right, to this guy. He's like making bowls and these things out of wood that are just like, it's not easy to do, you know, but he refuses to allow you to call it art, right? Because art isn't practical, you know, and that's the point, right? Like music isn't a chair you can sit in. It's not a mode of transportation. It's not any of this. It's literally just sounds coming out of a speaker, and like somehow it matters.
Bienvenidos amigos a La Última Canción Podcast. Hoy tenemos un capítulo muy especial. Como si se habrán enterado viendo otros capítulos, este es un podcast bilingüe. Entonces el capítulo de hoy será mayor parte en inglés. Tenemos de invitado productor musical Stitch. Welcome, Stitch.
Welcome, Stitch.
Thank you.
How are you guys over there? Okay, we're good. Let's start this. All right, Stitch. Well, you were telling me you're from Illinois, born and raised in Illinois?
Yeah, for the most part, but born and raised in Illinois.
How long you been living in LA?
I've been in LA for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm. So you have been involved in music since ever? Or how do you get involved into music?
Well, my dad was a drummer primarily, but he also owned a DJ company. Mm-hmm. So he's always doing weddings and different events. And then, you know, he'd have the band practice over at our place. And you kind of see them all putting it together even before, you know, kind of getting into it yourself. But like I started doing it probably about 9-ish, you know, is when I felt like I could play like a solid drum beat and then like start working on some different things like drum fills. But I got into guitar at about 12 or 13 and then recording kind of freshman-ish year or sophomore year or something in high school, something crazy like that.
Okay, cool. So drums is like your first instrument, your first passion in some way, or now you're like a multi-instrumentalist more, or?
Yeah, I think the drums are kind of elusive, and like guitar came as almost a secondary thing, but I spent more time with it, so it worked out. The drums are always loud, you know,
yeah.
Like so I couldn't play the drums necessarily at like my mom's house or whatever. Right. So I had to, you know, I felt, you know, compelled to do some music, and I, you know, picked up the guitar, figured I could put it in headphones or I could, you know, that sort of thing and keep it quiet.
It's easier to practice and keep at it.
Yeah, it's got a volume knob. You know, I know nowadays they've got, you know, these electronic drum sets that are killer, but like the technology wasn't the same in like the 90s, I guess.
Right. So you started pretty young in music, and so after like high school, were you like in any bands in high school also, or how does that
So I had a couple of different situations, I guess. In high school, I was in the marching band. I played tenors. You know, I'm playing like I was bass drum for a while. I didn't do snare because I just didn't want to do snare. Yeah, it was like one of those things, and that was cool. And I also played guitar in a couple of bands. JB Stud and the Pimptastics. It was a crazy. Okay. We were winning like Battle of the Bands. We had the most random set. We played like the Ninja Turtles theme, like Beat It. We played all kinds of songs, and that was tons of fun. I had a friend named Marco. I used to hang out at his place all the time, and we just had musicians come and jam. You know, sometimes I jump on the drums, sometimes I jump on the guitar. You know, we had a set over there in the basement, so it was a super cool setup. But you know, and I joined the Air Force and I couldn't have a drum set again.
Do you by then have any influential, some music that you were like more tend to listen to?
Yeah, I got some good habit music, and I think some probably like bad habit music. You know, when I first started, I think I was more drawn to like technique. You know, things like this. You find these crazy guitar players like Steve Vai and like Joe Satriani and like Yngwie Malmsteen, like, and nobody wants to listen to that, but like they're really good guitar players.
Really good, They have like super long songs and
yeah. So there's that sort of thing, and then there's when you finally break it down to the more simple stuff, like listening to Snoop or Dr. Dre or something like that coming up. Kanye was around when I was in high school with The College Dropout. Things like that were just like,
this is good.
Yeah. This is what's coming.
Exactly. So in terms of influence, I'd say there's some bands like I like Metallica. I like some of the stuff.
Like a wide
because they bridge the gap. There's like a level of simplicity. Like you can't always, like we can't say that the best rappers are fast rappers. Like if you rap fast, like you must be really freaking good. Like you could be using filler words, not saying anything, just rhyming random shit. Like who knows? You're just saying it fast, right? So like then you think about rappers that are great, like Jay-Z or like even Kanye again on that side. Like they don't rap a million words per minute or whatever. It's just like poignant, it's concise, it gets the job done.
Yeah, that's true. So like even in high school, did you think, well, you said you joined the Air Force,
right?
But like in high school, did you see yourself in a career in music? Was that like always the plan, or?
Yeah, I always hoped so. Like of course, like I hope everybody that's making music is making it to share it in a way that compounds upon itself, like builds up. You know what I mean? Like if you're just doing music off in the cut and it's just you, like I guess it might be therapeutic, it might be whatever, but like you should share it with people. It might be more therapeutic, Right. So I feel like that's always been kind of the goal. Like I want to make music, and if it can gain traction while I'm touring or going around in the Air Force or whatever I've got going, it'll be cool. But
right, like making music for the right reasons. Kind of like, well, I guess I don't know. It's kind of strange that we've talked a lot about on this podcast that some people, you see them kind of like making music to gain wealth or to not like as a career and like a voyage, like gaining more virtuosity in your craft, but more like just to make some money. So did you ever, I mean, there's obviously that side to it. It's obviously if you can do what you like and you can make money, it's obviously very good. But
right.
I mean, there's a business behind, but at the same time, there's some like artistry.
So to go parallel to the topic, right? Yeah. Like I grew up, like my stepdad was a shoe collector, right? So I always had like kind of like a different awareness about what releases were coming or like what type of Jordans were when they were released, like all this stuff. Like I have like a crazy time frame for that, and like kind of a good memory for trivia, right? So like there was a time where, I mean, even like video game stuff, I could go to the store and say like, hey, I want a PlayStation 2 reservation, and they would be like, oh, I don't even know if that's in the system. Oh, let's check. You're like the 5th person that wanted one. Like the numbers are low. I could go out on a Saturday morning and wait in line. Now there's like hacking programs to buy the shoes. Like you can't, it has to be a raffle on like Yeezy and like sneakers, like all that shit it's crazy, right? And the same thing applies here. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no simple way of appreciating the thing. Like I've got guys that, they buy the shoes with the bots, or they have a connect and they sell me the shoe at retail because they know I care about the shoe and I want to wear it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to sell it again at a profit. I have shoes in my collection that are crazy, but I don't want the money. I want the shoe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, then it comes down to that sort of thing with music. Like, it's people that are just living off of like, oh, I got the drop, I can sell it at this much. You know, I saw Instagrams that tell you how much you can expect to sell it up,
Right.
to create even more demand for people who don't really want the actual item. Crazy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of expectations around the music business. A lot of people go to the business and found out that it's not that bright, right?
So in my education under music, I found that a producer doesn't necessarily have to be a musician, right? A producer can literally be the guy with the money, right? Like, if you know about film, you know what I'm saying? They have a whole entire expectation of like, this is what we're going to do. Like, we're going to make some money and this is how we're going to do it. And this is the plan. It's the same thing for a music producer going around saying like, I know guys that make beats like this. I know guys that rap and sing like this. I got to put them together to make the hits. And then I can put together a label or I can do whatever. Now, you can be good at that, or you can just go to YouTube and find who has the most views
Right.
and punch that up.
Play safe somehow.
It's like shopping top shelf. You know, like, it's going to be made out of better materials, but is it cool?
And that how does resonate with the audience? How do you build audience around that? Let's say people probably at some point is going to start like listening to the same thing over and over. But like, what's make the difference? What make like in your opinion, that an audience kind of like engage with some artists and some others?
Well, when it comes to engagement, I feel like, again, some of it's been taken away by not having, you know, I mean, at first we were worried about like album art, right? iTunes did the whole thing. They tried to have digital booklets. Whatever, that's gone. And I used to obsess and be like, some of my music doesn't have an album cover. You know what I'm saying? But like, you gotta be, I think, personal, right? So accessible. I think there's people that tell their stories or talk about things on their Instagram that I find interesting and I will watch it. And then there's people that are just doing that challenge where they tape the phone on the ceiling and like twerk around the room or whatever. And it's like,
It's not for me.
yeah, I guess it depends on your goals. You know what I mean? So if I can find somebody who's connected to that audience and make a ratchet song that's going to get put on all the challenges and everybody's doing that, I might do it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm going to be probably a little choosy in the process of making this, right? Like, there's some beats that we know become common from time to time. How do you put your own spin on it? How do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Your
I'm
own
not just
flavor.
gonna figure out what all beats I can add to this repetitive kick pattern or whatever is going on. I'm gonna try to be a little bit original and maybe do something that fits the pocket but has a different kind of pattern to it, right? So that I can do something new, right? And that's what we're hopefully looking for. I don't like to duplicate things.
Right. Going back to your the base of your education starting up, like where do you go after like high school? What you go into the Air Force right away, or how does that go?
Yeah,
Like
the Air Force was like a month after.
yeah.
Wow, pretty quick.
I knew I was signed up for the Air Force for my whole senior year.
Oh, okay.
So I was in the like delayed entry program or whatever. So it gives me some sort of advantage in terms of how fast I get in. And so senior year, I wasn't looking at a bunch of stuff. It was just like school, going to basic, whatever. I went through basic, tech school, whatever. I bought like a multi-track recorder. I did a couple of covers on that. I didn't like it. I returned it. I went to Little Rock Air Force Base. I'm stationed in Arkansas.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Bill Clinton's house out in those towns.
Yeah, there is a Bill Clinton museum, and it's actually like it looks like it's like shaped like a trailer.
Oh, really?
I'm like, oh my gosh! All right, so and trying to be nice to Arkansas. Look, I was stationed there, and that was crazy. I was primarily a guitar player at the time. I'd already recorded some high school stuff. Whatever, but I didn't have like a computer or production equipment. I literally just was playing guitar, and I found these guys that rapped, and I went off base one time and performed with them and got all these different bands information, right? So I'm playing with all these rappers. I end up doing Battle of the Bands in Arkansas, where I made it to the semifinals or whatever, but it was me playing with this guy that just has a DJ and this other guy who has a band. Like, I was like, I had to make sure I wasn't getting disqualified because I was in both bands and
Yeah.
like, I'm going to win.
Yeah. Either way.
Double the chances, yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. And that turned into a bunch of different opportunities there. But as I'm meeting different people through these networks, I'm learning of guys that are doing production at their houses. They've got this crazy equipment that I've never used before, like MPCs and, the Mac with the recording software. And we made beats. We used to be like, you could get like a buy one, get one footlong at Subway on Sundays or something like that. and we'd do that and just work on beats. And like, finally we decided we were going to make a compilation. So we recorded all this stuff at my place. I finally bought a computer. I had Cubase or whatever, and these recordings were trash. Like, we put them, they sounded cool in the studio, and then we got to the car and was like, bro, what is this? And that's when I started going to school the first time for like recording stuff, Pro Tools, whatever. That was through like Berkeley Online, and it got interrupted by some deployments, whatever. I finished a couple of courses there. I got out and then went to Citrus over here in Glendora, and that kind of fleshed out the rest of it, because there's things like using consoles. The console's like $250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do to get one of those at your home studio?
Right.
Like, no. So you got to get an education that includes being able to have access to these things, or see what's going on with like using patch bays and like.
The online education just goes to a certain level, and then you have to actually be there.
Because it's like they're trying to make this baseline like minimum. Like, I understand it. I'm not even gonna knock it. Like, there's so much stuff out there. Like, you can learn on YouTube, but that's a jungle, right? And then you pay a little bit more, and you get this. But then, like, when you're talking about online courses, you have to use your stuff.
Right, exactly. Whatever you have it at home. Yeah.
So it's not going to be, Pro Gear, and the Pro Gear almost runs on completely different protocols, but that's what you have to be aware of as a producer or an engineer to get anywhere.
Right. And for example, it's an interesting thing. Like we know now that a lot of people have like their studios at home and kind of have their kind of setup, and obviously they go to like a professional studio to like master and all this. But it sounds like you kind of came up in your career between like the analog and the digital kind of era still.
Yeah.
So how is that like influenced your style of work, or like how you make music?
So I understand a lot of the different concepts of what we're trying to do when we're either emulating analog or, using tapes in our process or whatever, right? And then the digital pitfalls, or what has gone wrong, or what's kind of, polarized people versus what, like when CDs came out, they weren't converted right, and it sounded bad. And they're like, no, that new medium, And so like we're in this kind of phase now, right? We've got a bunch of different, things going on. Like we've got the Dolby Atmos business going on with like, I don't know how it gets into AirPods when it's on noise canceling, but it's like, it sounds like it's literally acoustic, like ventriloquy. It sounds like it's coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And a lot of us think it's a gimmick, right? There's been all these different surround standards and stuff like that, but like it's another level.
Yeah.
And there's all these different things that go on with like the technology finally coming around. Like we didn't like solid state amplifiers for guitars and stuff like that, or things that were, software based, but now some of these software amps sound incredible. So it's like,
I feel like you have more tools now. Like you have more like accessible tools, so you can do like quality sounds with less things.
You can, right? I mean, there's the big way to do it, and there's a small way, or it's going to sound passable, right? Because we're also dealing with a lot of people in the audience that don't exactly have access to high end gear.
Right.
It was a lot of AirPods going on.
Yeah.
Before, even before that, it was the regular iPod headphones.
Yeah.
That was something that you almost had to have as an engineer to test, because everybody's listening on that. And then the other common test is a car. The car is usually people's best sound system.
Yeah, and sometimes where they most listen to music.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting because like that's something that come to the table to think about. Like when you're recording, you have to think of where they're gonna play it, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that is in the table right now, or it was always like that.
Right.
It was always like that. It was always like the engineers and the sound engineer were thinking how people going to listen to the music, or is something more
oh
new?
Yeah, absolutely. We always have to do that because our equipment, all the sound systems that we have in the studios, the monitors and things like that, they typically are way more dynamic and have the ability to be, pushed and beat on, because you're not, it's not a perfect recording already. You know what I'm saying? So once we get it down to these standards, and if it's actually mixed correctly, you have to look for like translation, your room's acoustics have to be good, and all these things. And like you see, like sound treatment, it becomes a slippery slope of explanation, because the sound treatment isn't necessarily for soundproofing the room so that you can't hear it outside. It's good not to have outside noises inside your studio, but it's also important to have balanced frequencies across the spectrum being reflected in the environment you're listening to it, right? So you can have standing waves and all these other things, different anomalies or whatever, that cause interference. You can't hear the record for what it actually is with those things going on. So if you can eradicate that from your environment, everything's going to sound that much better, because you're mixing against what the record actually sounds like. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
So it's like a lot of variables there also to like have in mind, thinking about that. So that's interesting. And I think kind of never really thought about it that way, but that makes total sense.
Interesting.
Just like as a listener, I would think like, I always try to have like some type of reproducing the music where I think I'm getting like a good quality of what I'm listening to, but you never know. Also, like now there's like more variables that go into like music streaming and like compression and all these things that kind of also go into factor into what you're listening to.
Right. And that's what, like you can't mix on like Beats by Dre headphones or something like that, right? Like the sound is already like, they did stuff to make it sound the way that it sounds when you get it. It's colored, it's got all this stuff going on. So then you're mixing against that, and then you play it in the car and it sounds like trash, or you play it in the, whatever, and it doesn't work out. And that's all part of that. So when you get into like studio monitors and higher end headphones, it's because of a different kind of response. So then people will listen to it and be like, this doesn't sound as good as I want it to. But that's because you're used to it being presentable. If you think about it, like it's all in the presentation.
Right. Of course.
So going back to what you were saying, like about your years in the Air Force and how you did this band and everything, how you gain your way to LA? How do you come to LA?
Oh man. Okay. So you guys are that's great. You guys are good. So I got out of the Air Force in like 2012, and I just felt this kind of like, I kind of been around the world-ish, and I have a different kind of perception of a lot of things because, you know, once you live in Korea and then you live in Japan and you've, you know, visited Italy and you've, you know what I'm saying, been deployed a couple of times, you start to have a different sense of how people get around or like what's going on in these different places. And it totally makes you kind of want to take, you know, like I could actually do something. Like you find out that there's these people in like Japan who just go to like thrift stores and buy clothes, and they go through this cleaning process and they put tags on it and they sell it. And these guys are flying like luxury class back and forth to do it, and they're making they're selling these shirts for like $50 to $80 and stuff in Japan because there's a demand. It could be a radio t-shirt that just has a cool design on it, you know, from back in the day here. And you're like, you can dig that deep into reselling t-shirts that you're flying like this and everything's luxurious and nice, and then, you know, work one of these entry-level jobs like for somebody and get almost nothing, right? I want to go to where it's difficult. I want to go to where it's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to see the heavy hitters. I'm going to run into celebrities. I'm going to run into, you know what I'm saying? Like, Bloomington, Illinois ain't that. You know? So, get out to Cali. Stuff happens. It's rough. You know what I mean? We figure it out. And then finally, after some time, we start gaining some momentum, getting a chance to, you know, see some people that we would have liked to work with as like, holy cow. Like right now, I'm working with a guy, my guy Mars. This is like, I couldn't possibly have predicted how it was going to happen. I didn't like aim and say like, this is the guy that I'm going to work with. But at the same time, I'm coming off of working with guys that I told, hey, you don't have to like stay in Arkansas and do music at a church. Like, come to LA, you know? And then he started living off of playing guitar, you know? That's a guy that he has played with her and Brent Fayez and, you know, all kinds of different people that I'm like, this is like getting close, you know what I'm saying? And we've stayed in the same houses at different times and done all that, you know, because we always try to figure it out. There was one place I stayed that was all musicians at one point, and you know what I'm saying? Like, we all split up during the pandemic because we weren't doing shows anymore and everybody had to go back home. You know, a lot of different stuff happened. So to see these guys back, and Rex, the guitarist that I brought out from Arkansas, ended up introducing me to my guy Mars because he was playing with him on different, you know, performances and different engagements. It was like, hey, I got a guy that engineers. This kid's a sick guitar player. He's crazy. Like, I wouldn't have told him to do any of this if he wasn't just like dope at it. So, you know, long story short, a whole bunch of coincidences led to a whole bunch of coincidences.
So was it must have been like or like when you make the decision to come here, because it feels like, obviously I understand the like testing yourself or proving yourself in like the biggest music market there is, which is Los Angeles, right? That's like an important thing to like come in, like, hey, I can do this too. When you arrive here, do you find like a saturated market, or do you find like you have your own thing that can kind of like,
I think,
make your way?
I think you're onto something. There's a slippery slope involved with that, right? Okay. Where it's like, it seems like to a lot of people, this is something that it's a whole bunch of people that are really difficult to crack or to compete with. That's not exactly the case. Mm-hmm. It's when you play with skill, good luck will happen. Mm-hmm. You know, like it doesn't seem so impossible. My little brother, he's a famous rapper. You know, he's not an A-list rapper, but he's dope. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He stayed indie, but he made enough money to, you know what I'm saying, furnish what he's trying to do, you know, get involved in real estate and business and all these other things to, you know, keep dreams going and support other artists and show them what's going on and, you know, build up kind of a label. And like, that all happened off of skill and seeing it coming, like before he went, you know, viral on his first video or any of that stuff, it was like, I knew it. I mean, I would even say, I'd be like, yo, like you're getting free, like I'm just giving him beats, bro. Like I just been sending him beats. He kills them and then he goes and he does his, like, I knew. I could tell people like, yo, he's gonna be like, yo, have you seen this guy? Like where the studio session is like, I want to see this guy. It's like I'm the star. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and for sure he ended up popping off and getting things going. And I'm like, okay, if you can call that, if you can, you know what I'm saying, like, and be even involved with facilitating some of it, it's got to be possible. You know, it's not a lottery ticket, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess in any artistic endeavor, you know, you have, on top of skills, you have to have like determination and a mindset to pursue what you want and to stick to your guns and like follow your dreams in a certain way. And more than that, like kind of not leave it at a dream, but kind of make it like create your reality through what you want. So I guess like how was your process of like getting into that mindset? Or did you like, I know you always had like the mentality and the determination, but so how was your process of getting to that place?
So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do that isn't worth as much as it is. Yeah, it doesn't. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? Like, I had a friend who was a carpenter, you know, and you try to say that it's an art, right? To this guy, he's like making bowls and these things out of wood that are just like it's not easy to do, you know. But he refuses to allow you to call it art, right? Because art isn't practical, you know?
Right.
And that's the point, right? Like music isn't a chair you can sit in. It's not a mode of transportation. It's not any of this. It's literally just sounds coming out of a speaker and like somehow it matters.
Yeah.
But like, it's like being at the house all day doing music and the dishes are dirty and the trash isn't taken out, you know,
Yeah.
and like all these things, like it's, what have you been doing all day? Nothing.
Right. Right.
You know, and for me, it's been these things where it's like, no, I was in the studio recording with this person. I was over here with them and they either got better or they had something that they could take somewhere and share an experience and, you know, maybe release a project, and that had an impact on somebody. I don't always know, you know, that's not my feedback, is I'm not so obvious all the time. I'm not like Timbaland with the ad libs on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here, you know, I did help, but I'm not here to like, you know, scribe my name all over everything or whatever. So it is kind of like, it seems like nothing, but, you know, talking to this guy who brought me into a studio with somebody else, who brought me back to their studio, who works with Busta Rhymes or something like this, you know, or who has introduced me to more talented artists than I've ever, you know what I'm saying, had access to while I'm looking for these clients. Or I go somewhere and I see one guy who was standing out in this show and he's already got management, or he's already got, you know what I mean? Like, you're being introduced to a machine just by, it seems like, luck, but it's also been that you stayed with it, you know? Like, a lot of people, I don't know, I'd imagine they drop out, they sell their machines, they do whatever, like they've had these fights, but, you know, I've had all my equipment gone, I've gotten it back, I've had things stolen, I've whatever, I'm like, I keep going at it, you know what I mean?
So talking about that machine, like how you see the scene in LA right now, like how you, like what's the, like how's music shifting now from LA to the world? Like how you feel that's come, how you feel like it's going on?
I feel like a lot of people are leaving LA.
Yeah.
Like, obviously they got different reasons, but the internet decentralizes so much. You can't possibly, you know, I mean, there are obstacles, right? Like it does become a bottleneck where you're like, oh yeah, can you send over the tracks or the stems or the whatever? Can we collab remotely? Is this going to work out? Is there still going to be the chemistry? Is it, you know, there's a ton of things that are missing or even closer to capable than you think. But you got to just like keep looking and keep learning and keep watching the technology because it always evolves. There's all these obstacles are there for everybody. So somebody somewhere is like focused on that one. You know?
Right.
And as long as you stay tuned, you can kind of like see, you know, different companies putting their efforts together, you know, different, like, oh, okay, you lose Kanye out of the industry, but then like Travis Scott is doing a bunch of stuff off of his demos. You know what I mean? Like, how far is it? Like, oh, is it really Mike Dean that's behind? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole bunch of different ways to like look at what's going on. But in terms of, you know, like obviously advancement and things like that, like just keep your, you know, ears open.
And like going, since we're talking about the internet now, going to one of our favorite subjects here on the podcast.
Became one.
Yeah, well, it's been like a recurring thing we've been talking about, which is streaming platforms. Well, we have like this this feeling that the way we kind of consume music has changed like over the years. Like we had first physical or analog actual material things like cassettes, CDs, LPs or whatever. And then it's transferred over like the 2000s to here, where it's gone mostly digital and people can have their whole collection and more than they'll ever listen to right in their pocket and listening to it on their phone. How do you feel like that has impacted and benefited making music and like the opportunities you have to get your music out there, I guess?
It makes a lot of us, I think, skim the surface, right? Like, one of my favorite ways to listen to music was a mini disc player, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's sick. Like, so you got this cartridge that has almost like the perfect amount of space on it, right? It's pretty much indestructible.
Yeah.
And
Doesn't skip.
Yeah, it doesn't skip. It's like, there's so many good things about a mini disc. And it came at such a terrible time, and then the iPod came, right? And it's like, I still have a mini disc player. I can hook up my interface and record stuff to my mini disc player. Like, and if I could just walk around with like a phone that is just a phone and like a player that's just a player,
Yeah.
I would be probably more satisfied right? I don't need to be able to turn my lights different colors.
Yeah.
You know, like that's cool, but just make the controller for that cool and like not in my pocket also, because I'm like, oh, where's my phone at? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm trying to do this. It's ringing.
I completely get that with like, for the longest time, I didn't care what phone I had, because a lot of people will like think about the camera. Oh, the camera on this one's better. And I deal with cameras like all the time, professional cameras.
Real cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't care what
Right,
camera's on my
right.
phone. I just
Yeah.
want to like get phone calls and text, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly,
so-
exactly. And I used to be like, dude, I refuse to take pictures with my phone, because I used to have like a like a Nikon or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah,
like
exactly.
only saying sorry because I don't think I saw any in here. But
No, that's fine. That's fine.
yeah,
Nikon's
you
good.
know, and it's
good
like
for photography.
I'm shooting with like lenses and like doing all this different
Yeah.
stuff, and it's like, dude, this is way better.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and like when you get to certain levels, it's like you have enough buttons and control and like whatever to take great shots
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Once you know how to do, it's like, you know, driving or whatever, like how fast, how slow are we, like merging or whatever. We got like a speed of action going on here, an amount of light, things to perceive and adjust, and you know, like. But that would make the rabbit hole too deep to include as
of
far
course.
like
Right.
into like photography as like
Yeah.
I would go with things before like coming back to audio and saying like,
Yeah.
all right, let's separate shit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want my phone to do so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I take notes in a notebook. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Like, is it over here? Is it over here? Anyways, like I don't like the notes like app. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I have
okay.
a notebook, and it, you know, it just has like one page at a time,
Yeah.
and that's it, right?
You
I
take
gotta
notes.
put stuff down, and like going through the process of writing it down instead of typing it, or
Yeah. It's also
yeah. And then there's the problem of like, okay, I took a bunch of pictures, I wrote a bunch of notes, I made a bunch of memos. How do I like do you go back and like look at that when it's on your phone? Like your habits are all like it's
Yeah.
bad. So you get into a situation where it's like, okay, like do you watch TV in bed? You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
do you watch and if you do watch TV in bed, how well do you sleep?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, does it have to go together? Like, do you want to do other stuff? Do you eat in bed too? Like, what? So,
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like we have like so many like these advances in technology they're supposed to make our life easier. They're kind of just like making us like lazier and
More
Yeah.
dependent.
more dependent. Yeah, but also it's like too much more than we actually need.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Too much
why-
like stimulus and
Yeah,
stuff.
what's the necessity of it? What's the actual need of it?
I mean, it's crazy because for us, we kind of like we witnessed the process where things changed. Like we were born when Facebook didn't exist, but there's a bunch of generation, like a bunch of young people. They were born when everything was already there.
Yeah.
So the way they approach to the digital era is way different. I mean, like for me, my opinion is like digital is just not like the gadget. It's like a culture. It's a way of understand the world. So in that way, I feel like the way people understand music now is different. For us, it's different because we like live the process. So we witness a lot of changes, but like young people come with this and they listen to the music in a different way.
so I think there's a difference between pre-internet again. The internet strikes again, and the
Yeah.
internet is undefeated,
Yeah.
right? But we used to have labels, and we used to have A&Rs. We used to have all these things.
Yeah.
And people could, you know, pick and choose. You know, we want this guy. We want this person to come up in front of you. We're going to push this guy. It wasn't just some random guy who came up with a plan and went viral and shot to the top from his bedroom. Right?
Exactly,
It went
yeah.
through all this vetting, and some of the vetting was definitely more accurate. I mean, I run into these people that are doing music all the time now, right? We're at home recording, and we don't know what a key is.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like now these days, like music and the celebrity culture are mingled, and they're very like mixed up. So there's a lot of like, let's say we talk about the case of XXXTentacion, and like he was a phenomenon, not only because of the music, because like how he started using the social network Instagram, like more specifically. And since that time, like so on, it's been like a huge change culturally talking, right? And for you as a musician living in LA, how you endurance those changes and how you see, let's say, the upcoming of the Latin American music that became big and like kind of like put in front of the Anglo-Saxon music, like the American music, and put like in a second place.
I've seen exactly what you're kind of saying. There's this kind of monofocus with our audience, where it's like once Despacito went diamond or whatever.
You couldn't go anywhere without hearing it.
Like once that happened, it's like then you get this like Bad Bunny and all this other stuff, and I just I'm suspicious only because I'm not bilingual, right? I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, and I can like vaguely understand it, but even more vaguely speak it. And I end up kind of hearing these songs and they blow up and it's whatever. But like the thing I'm suspicious of is, are these songs even fire in your opinion? Like is it just like the Americanized, Justin Bieberized like version that kind of like just took over in a wave? Everybody's like, oh, these songs sound like this song, and if they can, or it could be because of what they all warned us about, like this kind of culture is going to take over, like this population is expanding, and really music is a weird microcosm, right? Like all these people are getting all this play and all this whatever, but like there's only like 350 million people in America or something like that, right? Which it's a small number and a big number at the same time.
Right.
But when you consider that platinum is 1 million, like, okay, and then we add streaming and like all these numbers, and it like breaks down a little bit different. But when it was just sheer physical sales, we're talking about 1 million. That is 1 out of 350. That's shit. You know what I mean? Like, so can you do that? You need exposure. But if you have a less than 1% conversion rate for fans, like, don't do anything. 1 in 100 people likes you, or 1/3 of 100. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like we were talking before about a lot of musicians, they're recording their houses and they have their studio. They release their own music, but they never like confront a live audience. They never like really put themselves in the stage. How you feel? Is that affecting? Is it a good thing? Is that a trend? Is what how you see that?
I have boots hit the ground kind of, straight ahead look at it with artists that, they want to make music. They do make music. There's things that they don't know about it because they're not on the inside, and their family doesn't do music, and there's nobody pointing, like all the pitfalls. And they show up and you're like, I couldn't even hear the beat, but I think you were off beat here and here and here. You can tell. They may have an Instagram or a social media thing that it doesn't show their music. They're not, it's like, why are you doing this? What's going on? And you can inform them and you show them like, hey, you can put your own music on your stories. You can do this, you can do that. And like, sometimes, even though they know or they figured it out, they're not doing it. And there's a lot of people who just want to make a record and then share it and say we did it, and you don't take it past like a macaroni necklace, like you know, something you hang on the fridge. You want your parents to look at, like what's up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
you need to promote your shit. You need to stay back on it. Like I'm like, it isn't just a 1 or 2 month thing. I've seen songs blow up a year later. It's probably because somebody didn't give up with it.
Right.
You know? So
Yeah, it's the thing there. So, you want to tell us about your project, where you are involved now?
really, you know, just look out for me. It's a lot of engineering. Hit me up. You know, I'm on all the social medias as Stitch Jones 6. I'm you know, available for hire on the Engineers platform. It's by Mixed by Ali. You can drop your mixes on there. I can get back to you about, you know, like for all these artists we're talking about sitting at home working on their records.
Yeah.
You know, you can get a long way with recording it, making sure that you got like the tracks and the stems or something like that from the beat that you're using, and sending it over to somebody that knows what they're doing. You don't have to.
Right. You don't have to know everything.
Like literally, that was the paywall for me, right? I went to school. I said, "Hey, look, I'm putting all this stuff in. It's all recorded. It's not clipping. It's whatever, right?" Like, if I could get those sessions back, some of those beats were good. Some of those beats were just amateur, right? But now I can make that sound great. Now I can, you know, spread it out and make it fill up the space in your car, your headphones, whatever. And that's been my thing. It's just is the record, right? So I've got artists that are out there, you know, shouts to Question, shouts to Frizzy, you know, Mac, the whole nine, right? And, you know, my guy Mars, you know, Darian, Lemon Tree Studios, you know what I'm saying? Like all that futuristic, you know, these are all people that are involved in this journey, you know. Marco from the beginning, you know, he still makes records and stuff like that. Duck World, Beats, Freaks, and Geeks. You know, we're out doing production showcases at Simple Bar on the second Sundays of, you know, every month. There's guys coming out with their beat machines doing, you know, sets like the DJs, but with stuff they produce. So
In a bar?
Yeah, in a bar.
Which one?
On Cahuenga, Simple Bar. That's what it's called.
Bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually doing
Keep
a
an eye on
holiday.
it.
We're actually doing a holiday party on the 17th coming up. So
See, we should go.
yeah, yeah, come out. It'll be fun.
Like to start, like kind of like wrapping up. There's a question that I think we're gonna develop more on it. But like, what is your opinion on the artificial intelligence, on how you think that's gonna affect the industry?
I think people are scared of it. I think it you know, it can do a lot of crazy things. I've used AI in a few ways. I've seen AI in action. It can help people write records. It's a great tool for rhymes. It's a great tool for merging ideas. You know, I like it. I think if we could, you know, you just have to come up with dope prompts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're
should be seen more like as a tool than as a
Right.
a threat.
Yeah, a threat.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And if you don't embrace it as a tool now, it's gonna be
Harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be way harder for you in the long run. Like just stay up. It's helpful as far as I can tell right now.
Yeah.
And it can't do everything. You know what I mean? You're gonna want these parts. You're gonna put them together yourself. You're still gonna have to make the record sound right. I'm not scared.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's a good answer.
Something else you want to answer for?
No, I think we covered most of what I wanted to hear.
Yes,
Yeah, no, thanks so much for coming in.
It's a
It was
pleasure
great talking
have
to you. Yeah, very interesting story of your life story and professional story is very interesting. So
Oh, yeah.
thanks for coming in, and we'll keep an ear out for what's coming next with you.
Dope.
Yeah, like we're always here. So if you have any project after, something you want to talk about, just
Oh yeah.
this is your place. to
For
talk.
sure. And I gotta
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
tuned to you guys too.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're gonna start doing next year some like live sessions in the space over there. So if you have some artists also who want to come in or something like that, we can.
Oh,
we'll
sweet.
set
No, I
that
could
up.
probably definitely put together like it would be interesting because I think I would probably try to put together more of like a Stitch Jones kind of like presents deal
Oh, okay.
where I don't
Oh,
have
that's
like
cool.
one act, maybe just like maybe like one band, but some different frontmen with like some of my beats and stuff like that. I can show you. You know what I mean? Like
that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
That'd be cool.
Hey, thank you so much.
For sure. No, thank you guys.
Amigos de la última canción, entonces síganos, suscríbanse al canal. Tuvimos idea con Stitch. Saludos a Beto, que está atrás, Catalina, que no pudo estar hoy día. Carlos,
excelente.
Oh yeah.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
All right. That was cool.
That was cool.